Hey folks, welcome to the March 27 Kubernetes SIG Docs meeting. I'm your host today. My name is Ray Lojano. A few housekeeping items. This meeting abides by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which summarizes to be kind to each other. I will share the notes here. I'm trying to I no longer share my screen. Okay, share screen. And so I'm sharing my notes here. There's some further housekeeping items here. I don't see any new contributors, so we are going to go to the next portion, which is updates and reminders. Oh, I see one more person joining, so I'll wait till then. Hi, Aditya. Welcome to the Kubernetes Docs meeting. If it's your first time joining, feel free to come off mute and introduce yourself if you'd like.
No, it's not the first
Oh,
time.
not first. Yes. Okay. All right. Now I'll just go to updates and reminders. This week's PR Wrangler is Natalie Vladko. Shadowing is Amarnath Chari. And this next week's PR Wrangler is Divya Mohan with Satyam Sony shadowing. And the 3 weeks from now will be Nate Waddington, will be the PR Wrangler. And this week's issue wrangler is Abby McCarthy, and next week's issue wrangler is Celeste Horgan. Other further updates, reminders that if there's any if you see any possible code of conduct violations, feel free to send an email, and it'll be anonymous. No, that's to conduct@kubernetes.io. So the first topic of the agenda is the release 1.30. So I copied this from the release team meeting notes. That was from actually 2 days ago, from Monday, March 25. The docs, in terms of the doc status, yesterday was actually the docs freeze deadline. It's actually today for me, but tomorrow or yesterday for some folks in the world. So they had the current status is yellow. At that time, 13 PRs needed a review on Monday, but since then we have reviewed all 13 open PRs as well. I did open up a follow-up issue on one of the PRs, so there is some follow-up work for one of the docs. It's just moving several sections to another page, and that's just not including. So that's just so it might be good first issue. So I did open that new PR or that new issue today. The new process for this release is that if any enhancements did not meet the docs freeze yesterday, they would have to file an exception. So that's a new process this release cycle. So that is, like I said, that's the new process for this release cycle. If enhancements did not meet the docs freeze, they would need to file an exception as well. So we'll keep so we should have a status on that after the next release team meeting if any docs or any enhancements missed the docs deadline. There might be as well because KubeCon Europe was last week, so there was a little, and we did not have a PR wrangler last week, so we'll take a look to see. Wait till the next release team meeting for that. Any comments or questions on the docs release for 1.30?
So Ray, is the current status still yellow?
Yeah, but that's from Monday, so they'll have a meeting in about later today, in about 6 hours or so. So it might be yellow, it might be green. I believe all the PRs have been merged already.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that one follow-up issue that I filed. And it just moving the section to a different page. It's so it's and also it's also moving the graceful node shutdown and ungraceful node shutdown from the concepts architecture nodes page to the cluster administration concept/cluster administration page. So just was recommended. So it's kind of above the beginner level where the architecture concepts architecture nodes page.
So this thing is not a generic concept. It should be some kind of an administrative task, right?
Yeah. So that's why we thought about, that's why I thought the issue. So she moved to the cluster administration page instead.
Cool.
Content wise, I don't think it needs to change, but just moving the sections. So it might just be a good first issue that someone can move those 3 sections to the cluster administration page under concepts.
Okay.
All right. Welcome Vanilla as well. I see someone. So moving on to the comms, their current status is green. So they have 7 feature blogs that met the ready for review deadline that was last week. And so reviews are still pending currently. And those will be published after the release later in April. So that is still, so they're currently in green. There are other status that they're also having contacting SIGs and enhancement owners as well to write a short paragraph for features that will be included in the release blog. So they will have 7 feature blogs ready. So that's not including the release blog. So there's the release blog and additional 7 blogs for 1.30. So their status is still green currently.
Mm.
All right. Any comments or questions on the comm side?
No.
Okay. I didn't have any issues or PRs linked here. I was at KubeCon Paris last week, so I didn't have any anything to bring up yet. We did have a doc sprint, and it was actually a very well attended doc sprint, but it was actually helping out etcd for their documentation. So we made some PRs to fix some etcd docs. Also, the SIG CLI as well attended as well. So we helped them to guide them into some pointers with for their customized docs as well. So that was the highlights of the doc sprints for KubeCon in Paris was mostly was an etcd focused doc sprint, and some little help with for SIG CLI with the customized docs. Okay. So that's all I have, and I know folks are still traveling from KubeCon as well. So we will hear back from the release team to see if there's any enhancements that did not meet the docs freeze deadline. We should hear about them later today. So in about 12 hours or so, or I'm sorry, more than 12 hours. So probably like 18 hours or so. That we should hear if there's any enhancements that have missed the docs freeze deadline. But the last I checked, all the open PRs have been addressed, and I have filed a follow-up issue for one of the PRs. All right. Does anyone want to bring up any open questions or discussion points?
Sure. I'm a little bit worried about the number of issues we have today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On website we have in total 660 issues in total. And I just checked the 330 are about the English language. That's half of the total. That's a big number.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. You're not alone. That's why we created the issue wrangler position. When I was issue wrangling, I think it was about 700 issues were open. So it's always, and this is an ongoing thing that we need to also have a documentation on how to wrangle issues as well. And I was asked last time on my perspective on what I do for wrangling issues as well. And other folks have chimed in the last SIGDocs meeting as well. So yes, I do agree with you that we have an ongoing high number of issues as well. And also so I also noticed as well that that we have long-term issues and we have a project board for important long-term issues as well. When I did my issue wrangling rotation, I did spot several, not many that I closed. They were of the support nature, or they were not in the scope of SIG docs. But I do agree with you that there is a lot of issues, and that's something that we have this new name role for the issue wrangler, and so hopefully that will reduce the number of issues this year going forward, and so hopefully we'll see a constant reduction in issues as the weeks go on.
Yeah. So ideally, maybe we can cut the number to around 100.
Mhm.
100 is a healthy status, but 313, that's too big.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you, and also with open PRs as well. It's always um, when you filter out to English, it actually cuts it down quite a bit, but we have a lot for
Yes, I'm
localizations
looking
as
at the
well.
English issues. The English issues is about 330.
Yeah,
That is still too big.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% that we need to review the issues and properly triage the issues and see if they're valid issues, and start working on the issues. So yeah, 100% agree with you on that.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll make a note of that as well. On the issue wrangler guide as well, that our target should be, if I'll put this up for discussion with SIGDocs, if what the duties and tasks for the issue wrangler is. So yeah, okay. Any other comments or questions regarding open issues?
I have one, Ray.
Hmm.
So it's not about an issue. It's actually about a PR that I raised. It's a new tutorial altogether about
Yeah.
how to create config maps, and the difference between a config map as a volume and a config map as an environment variable. It adds about config maps as the immutable config maps and config in the case of sidecar. So it's a fairly big PR with a size of Excel. So
Mhm.
it's close to 1,000 lines, modified with 9 files changed. So it's going on for a period of around 3 months now, and mainly Tim has been working with me, and we are working together. And there have been a series of reviews and comments which I have addressed, but I'm failing to get it to the next stage. Like I'm
Mhm.
yet to get an LGTM on it, and I'm available for any kind of modifications or any further improvements that need to be made. But probably what I'm thinking is, because of the size of the PR, it is probably a bit much uh, for one reviewer to take a look at it. I can send you the link to the PR so you have a reference, because I'm trying to reach out to the PR wranglers. They change every week, so but I'm
Yep.
trying to reach out to them. But probably the PR is so big that maybe they don't have the time or the capacity to review it wholly. So I was kind of looking at you for some guidance or advice as to how should I approach this, and try to get it through.
Yeah. So large PRs are very, I guess, daunting for because if it's over 1,000 lines, the reviewer might it might take a while as well, especially if it's a tutorial when it should be tested in a Kubernetes cluster that's of the current version that's in main for the main branch. So yeah, I know Natalie is the current PR wrangler. Reach out to the current PR wrangler if they have the bandwidth to review the PR. Um, the hard thing is because it's such a large PR, And if it does, if it's a tutorial, it should go through the steps of. I would typically run through that tutorial. I would open up a Minikube or Kind cluster and test it out for the current version, which is 129, which is for main, and to test it out to see if it is if it does work in for that tutorial. So the only suggestion I have is just to reach out to the PR Wrangler. Maybe not even this week. Maybe starting reach out to next week's PR Wrangler, so it's on their bandwidth, so they could get it on their. So I believe Divya is the PR Wrangler for next week. So I would reach out to Divya as well, just to put it on Divya's. I know Divya might have some conflicts this week, but just to get it on Divya's board to review, since it is a large PR to review.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any possibility to divide this PR into some smaller pieces? That would make things a little more easier for people to review.
Actually, the PR addresses a particular issue which was raised. So it came as a request through an issue that we need such a kind of a tutorial, and it needs to have these 4 or 5 steps all together. So I tried to address all of them together, and actually the scope increased, because then Tim advised to also include the sidecar use case and the immutable config maps use case. So. I'm open for suggestions, of course. So if you think
Yeah.
that.
So basically, if you have a tutorial, say we have 4 or 5 steps for a task, maybe only 3 of them are mandatory. The other 2 are optional. So the optional steps can be left for follow-up PR. That would be okay. And another thought is, if you have some examples, you can add those examples later. Yeah. So in many ways, you can shorten your PRs for ease of review. So anytime when I'm reviewing a PR that is 3 or 5 thousand lines of words, is time consuming. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. If you could have the basic tutorial in the first PR, then have the optional, like Chiming has mentioned, and subsequent PRs, they could be open as well. They could be work in progress or draft. So when the first PR is merged, then that will be available. That's a good suggestion on that. To make it smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, and then to have the other PRs in work in progress or draft, and so that the reviewers know that there's a follow-ups to the first PR.
Sure.
Yeah, because since since you did have comments to increase the scope, the increased scope could be other PRs, or it could be follow-up PRs.
Okay, thanks for the suggestions.
Thank you, Aditya, and thank you, Chimeng. All right, any other topics, PRs, issues, questions?
Hi, Ray. I'm new to this, and I just wanted to shadow a pre-R Wrangler. So I have pinged Divya earlier before QCon, and I just thought of following up again to make sure some slot has been scheduled for me in order to shadow PR Wrangler whenever we have free slots.
Yeah. Who did you ping? Did you ping me, or is that before KubeCon?
Before KubeCon, I pinged Divya.
Divya. Okay. All right. I'll reach out to Divya about the PR Wrangler. There might be some travel still involved with so Divya still might be traveling. So if not, if you could just ping me on what the open date you want, and I could add you to it, and with your GitHub handle as well.
Sure. I'll ping you over Slack.
Yeah, just ping me over Slack.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions or new discussion points or issues or PRs? All right. Well, thank you very much for attending. That concludes our SIGDocs meeting for the APAC edition for March 27, 2024. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.